What's up, y'all? This is actually my first video for Girl Defined since having Davy Jr. And most of you have realized that Davy Jr. is born. He was born on February 15th and he is doing amazing. He's 5 weeks old. He's just the sweetest, most perfect little baby in the entire world. And I know that before I had him, I told y'all that I would give like a birth story, labor and delivery update, how everything went. And a lot of you have been messaging me on like Instagram specifically since I've been posting there, especially on my personal Instagram, asking questions and asking when I'm gonna share the video. So I actually have a paper with a bunch of questions that you all asked about just my experience and how everything went, and just different questions about being a new mom. And so I'm gonna get to as many of these questions as possible. I know this video won't answer everyone's questions or won't give you everything that you want in a video, but I'm just hoping to kind of share my experience and share a little bit about my journey, since I know a lot of you have been following my journey since I was single, and then when I met Dave, and even our wedding, and then followed our story of us getting pregnant and my journey of pregnancy, and now it's the journey of being a new mom and all of that. It's been quite the journey. It's been super exciting, but like all new. So new. I feel like I'm learning so much every single day, and it's very humbling because it's just every baby is different, every person is different, every mom and baby combination is different, and so I just feel like, you know, I've never done this before, and so I'm just absorbing all the advice, all of the wisdom from people who have gone before me, because half the time I'm like, I don't know. So yeah, so I'm gonna rewind and start kind of at the beginning. So basically, I was due on February 18th, and a lot of times with first-time moms, they say to expect to go over. Oftentimes the average is like 10 days over, and so I was planning for probably not to have him before. And so February 14th, so Valentine's Day, I was feeling totally normal, like nothing was different. You know, I was a few days away from my due date, and I had seen the chiropractor the day before and gotten a massage the day before, and kind of like, you know, trying to prepare my body as much as possible. And so on February 14th, Dave and I, we went to breakfast to celebrate for Valentine's Day, and then I actually worked all day, and I had a few like Braxton Hicks contractions, but I had been having those very mildly that previous week. Like I didn't have them months leading up or weeks leading up. I had them very mildly, maybe the week before. And Valentine's Day, I had them maybe a little bit more, but nothing like, oh, I'm gonna go into labor tonight, like not at all. And so I worked all day for Girl Defined, and then Dave and I met at a restaurant for dinner to celebrate Valentine's Day for dinner. And we were like, okay, you know, this will for sure be our last Valentine's Day, just the two of us, because I'm gonna have a baby before next year. So we were trying to like just really enjoy our last, you know, days or weeks of us just being the two of us. So we went to dinner, and then at dinner, I felt like maybe the Braxton Hicks contractions were maybe like a little bit stronger, but like nothing really, not like contractions or anything like that. So we ran to the store, got some ice cream, we were gonna head back home. We had some gifts for each other, and so we were like, okay, let's just do that. Well, on our way home, I started feeling like, something's changing. Like maybe I might be starting to have very mild contractions. But I know they, like, you know, everyone said like, oh, don't think about it. I'm dropping my water bottle a lot. Don't think about it, don't worry about it, because oftentimes like first time moms, they start to get like really excited, and then they're like, oh, I think I'm going into labor, and it might even be like, you know, you might not really be having contractions, you might go on for days. Anyways, so I was just like, I'm not gonna think about it, I'm not gonna worry about it. So literally, this is like February 14th in the evening, it's like 8 o'clock, we get home, I pull up to our place, we both pull up at 8:30, we're in the parking lot of our apartment, Valentine's Day at 8:30 p.m. I get out of the car. As I'm standing outside of the car, before we even went into our place, I have a full-on serious hard contraction, the first one at 8:30 p.m. and I'm standing outside the car, and I'm like started to cry because all of the emotions, and like, oh my gosh, like, is this really what's happening? Like, am I going into labor? Like, what's going on? Because it was really, really intense already, and that just didn't seem normal. Like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't lost my mucus plug that I knew of, and my water hadn't broken. Like there were no like typical signs of something that might happen if you're like kind of like the typical going into labor. But I was like, this feels like really intense. But I thought, okay, maybe it's not. I don't know. And I don't want to get too excited. But then we went upstairs and I was like, okay, maybe we should just kind of like clean up and get organized just in case, you know? So we both started kind of like doing dishes and cleaning up and vacuuming and whatever, kind of like trying to just prepare just in case. And about every 10 minutes or so, I would have to stop because I would have another contraction, and it was so intense. I couldn't talk through it. I just had to focus completely on the contraction. So a lot of you know that I was planning and did have a home birth and used midwives. And so Dave called our midwives and we're like, hey, you know, we have the app out, we're timing these contractions, and it looks like right now they're about 10 minutes apart. Here's how she's feeling, here's what's going on. And so they were like, okay, you know, they're not gonna come yet, because normally if I were going to the hospital, I wouldn't go yet. So they're like, okay, call us back in an hour and give us an update. So an hour goes by, and at that point, you know, it's like 9:30, 10-ish, and my contractions are now about 4 to 5 minutes apart, and they're growing more and more and more intense. And so they're like, okay, we're on our way, that we're coming. So the midwives, I had a team of midwives, they came over and they got there. By the time they gathered their supplies and got to our place, it was maybe around 11:30. And I remember I was standing in our bathroom and I was leaning over the sink when they came in, and the lights were off in there because like I didn't want any like light or anything. I just didn't want anything bothering me. And I was just like leaning over there, kind of like it was just, I was in the middle of a contraction. So they were looking in like, yeah, she's definitely, you know, having contractions. But I thought maybe this is my first one, so maybe these aren't like really legit contractions, and maybe I'm just like a massive wimp, and they're gonna be like, honey, sorry, like you're not even in labor, these are like false contractions, like sorry, you know. So I just had all of these doubts, like wondering if I were even in labor. So then they right away checked me, and I was actually already like just between like 7 to 8 centimeters dilated, which means I need to get to 10. So I was extremely close and progressing, and typically can take an hour to gain another centimeter. So and so I just, you know, they started monitoring the heart tones and monitoring me and just constantly evaluating everything and keeping an eye on everything, and everything was going great. Everything was going so smooth. I ended up for probably about an hour and a half. I got in the shower and I just like worked through the contractions in the shower with the hot water just on my back. I thought maybe I would want to be in the bath and maybe even want to, you know, labor in the tub or even have a water birth, but I wasn't feeling it in the moment. I didn't really want that. And I'm the type of person that when I'm going through something really intense, I don't actually want people like touching me or like, you know, putting a warm cloth on, or like even with Dave, he was there like as basically my person supporting me, and I wanted him right there and he was with me the entire time. But I just wanted his like encouragement, for him to get me water, for his like emotional support. But I just didn't want anyone like touching me, because for me it was like, I don't know, I needed to be like fully mentally focused, and I needed my entire body to know exactly what was happening, and someone touching me just felt like it was outside of my control. So anytime the midwives would have, you know, in between every contraction, they're monitoring the baby's heart tones, and just even having that on my stomach, I just hated it, because I don't know. It's so different for everyone. I know a lot of other moms who have labored, they love having like a doula, someone who can like, you know, do essential oils and like put warm cloth on them or massage their shoulders. For me, I didn't want any of that. And at some points, even like the midwives were like, try doing this to, you know, Dave, you know, push her hips or whatever, see if that will help. And it just, nothing, anyone touching me was not helpful. So Dave was amazing, because he was so supportive and coaching me on my breathing and helping me to stay focused during contractions and not let myself mentally like get out of control. He was like right there for me. So anyways, I continued to work through contractions, and then about 1 a.m., about 3 a.m. So midwife showed up at 11:30 p.m. and then about 3 a.m., now it's the 15th, so now it's Saturday, I felt the urge to push. So I tried pushing on the birth stool, did a couple rounds of contractions on there, and then after maybe like, I don't know, 6 contractions, we decided to mix things up a little bit. I tried standing, like leaning over for a while. I did maybe 2 or 3 contractions like that. And then I was just so extremely exhausted. By this point, the pushing was so mentally, emotionally, physically just exhausting. I was just so tired that I decided, they encouraged me actually to get on the bed and push on the bed, because then I could, in between contractions and pushing, I could lean and back and lay my head and try to rest for a minute. And that was such a wise move because I was so exhausted, and I think I needed that last bit of like rest and energy to really finally push the baby out. And so we did a few more contractions on the bed, and then literally he was crowning, and then I was just like, I have to get this baby out. Like, I cannot push anymore. I'm exhausted. This is so hard. Obviously I didn't have any pain medication. I didn't obviously have an epidural or anything like that because it's a home birth, so you have 0 pain medication, which is what I wanted. I wanted to like feel it and experience it all, but I got to the point where I was like, I am done pushing, and I just want this baby out. Like, I want to see him. I want to know that this pushing is actually getting somewhere. So on that final contraction, I gave it all I got. My midwives had coached me on like exactly how to push and what to do, so I just gave it like everything I had. And then Davy Jr. literally came out like a torpedo. He went from crowning to completely coming out in one push, like in 2 seconds, literally. And it was just the most relieving, most shocking, most exciting, just every emotion ever feeling in the world, because he was out. I felt him like shoot out, and then all I see is them bring him up and put him on my chest, and Dave's there and he's like crying, so excited, and I'm there like, I just was so overwhelmed. I don't even know if I cried. I don't know what happened. I just remember being overwhelmed on every level with excitement, and just like, I can't believe what I just went through, what in the world. And so that was just the most, like, that whole, basically it was 8-hour experience from 8 hours, 7 hours, 8:30, 11:30, no, 8:30 to 3:30, 8:30, whatever. That whole experience, those few hours, was just probably one of the most like defining and most amazing, and one of the most overwhelming and difficult moments of my entire life. So amazing. And I look back on it, and I want to do it again one day. And I loved having a home birth. I absolutely loved using midwives. I absolutely loved the experience that gave me, and I felt like I was in a place mentally where it was the most mentally equipping for me to be at home. Even though there's no pain medication or anything like that, I would totally do it again. It was it's like just crazy, like super, super crazy. So that's what happened with the whole birth. Davy was super healthy. He had, no complications, no issues with him. He was just absolutely perfect in every way, which I'm so grateful for. Just absolutely so, so, so grateful. And I ended up having some pretty bad tearing just because of probably that final push when he went from crowning to coming out. And midwives, and even at the hospital, normally they'll just do, if there are minor tears, they'll just do them right then. But because of the intensity of my tearing, just like my body shape and stuff, the whole combination ended up not being a good situation. So it's like, would have happened anywhere. It was just like a combination of not great for me, like my body shape, and then the fact that I pushed him out all in one push. All of that, it just caused a lot of tearing. And so I actually did have to go to the hospital, basically to the surgery center, right after he was born, a few hours later, and I basically had to have surgery to get all stitched up. So that was kind of like a bummer, but honestly, I would take that any day over anything being wrong with him or having to go to the hospital because he wouldn't come. I mean, I feel like I was so blessed in the sense that that was really the only thing of the birth experience and process that went, different than what I was expecting. So that's kind of the story. And I want to spend the rest of the time actually answering y'all's questions, because these go into more detail, and so I really want to answer the questions that you were wanting. And I will try to do more like lives, and I don't know, do something where I can give y'all more details or share more of what you're wanting. And I'll do like this won't be the only video. I'll do another video showing you like my favorite products, things that I've liked, sharing more details about just different aspects of what y'all are wanting. So comment below letting me know what you want to hear more about. But I'm gonna go through these questions because I really want to share what you want to know. So question number 1, these are all taken from Instagram. Someone asks, was unmedicated labor harder or easier than you thought? I think it was definitely, I don't know, I prepared for it being really, really hard. I just never considered having an epidural. My mom had 8 kids, and she had 6, starting with me on down. She had all of them at home, and I was actually there I got to watch several of my younger siblings be born, and she always did them unmedicated, and I was really inspired by her, and her, just like, she's super strong and has a very high pain tolerance. And so I I just wanted the whole experience and wanted to feel every bit of labor. So for me, just that was what I wanted to do. And I knew it was going to be really hard. I think that the hardest part was that I didn't know what the outcome was going to be. I had never experienced labor. So the whole time mentally, I just kept doubting, like, is he actually going to come? Is pushing actually going to bring him here? Now I know, yes, it works. Yes, this is the process. This is what you can expect. And so I think the next time it'll be a little bit easier just because mentally I'll know what to expect. So in that way, I think mentally I kind of got in the way of myself because of that. The next question was tearing awful. A lot of you have messaged me asking about tearing and asking if it was so terrible. No, it wasn't, because it happened so fast. It's not like I felt it happening. It's like I didn't know that it happened until afterwards. I felt like I was in a lot of pain down there after he was born, but you're in pain anyways. You literally just birthed a human. So it's like, yeah, it's gonna hurt. Your body's like amazing, but you just pushed a human out, you know, so it's gonna hurt. But I felt like it did hurt like a lot. And so I was in a lot of pain down there after he was born. And then obviously we found out that I had very severe 3rd-degree tearing. And so made sense. But for me, like, I'll take tearing again. Like, to me, it wasn't that bad. Like, I would take that over a lot of other things. So that's just my preference. You don't know what's happening. So if I were you, I really wouldn't worry about it. And if you are worried, then, you know, you can talk to your midwives or doctor or whoever, whichever route you're going, and ask if there are things that you can do to mentally or physically prepare to prevent that or equip yourself for if it does happen. Next question, was using the restroom after birth awful? I had very severe tearing. So on top of having the baby, it's normally painful when you use the restroom, but then on top of that, I had all the tearing. So I did use the restroom, and I was at the hospital at this point, and the nurse and my midwife, they were both there, and they're like, it's gonna be super painful. Like, this is gonna be terrible. They just like kind of over prepared me for how terrible it would be. So that way when I used the restroom, it wasn't as bad. But they actually gave me Duroplast, I think it is. It's like a spray for like burning and itching. And so they sprayed a ton of that on me down there. And then I had like one of those little squirt bottles. And basically the entire time I used the restroom, I just squirt warm water on there. And for me, it wasn't nearly as bad. I think they prepared me for being so terrible that when it actually happened, I was like, oh, I thought this was going to be way worse. I do recommend for the restroom, they kept saying like, you know, make sure you have at the hospital, they were saying make sure you take laxatives because you do not want to get clogged up, and that can be a common problem with hormones and just everything for women giving birth. So I actually still haven't. I never took any laxatives. I actually just really focused on health and what I was eating. So I've been drinking green smoothies filled with everything in the world you can imagine in them, all the healthy stuff, and it's really kept me consistent, and it's really helped things move smoothly. So I would highly recommend that. I think it's worked great. Someone asks what helped during labor. I'm trying to rush through these so this isn't like a 45-minute video. What helped during labor? Obviously being in an environment that you feel really comfortable in, and really safe in, really like with a team that's really, you feel like gonna be there for you. So if that's a hospital, awesome. If that's a birthing center, awesome. Or if that's a home birth, awesome. Whatever is gonna help you to mentally be in a place that's going to mentally equip you for, I don't know, going through that process. For me, that was being at home. Also having a team around you who you know can support you and encourage you and coach you throughout the process. So for me, I only had my midwives and Dave there. So there was 3 care providers basically, and then Dave. And that's all I wanted, just because I knew for me mentally and emotionally, that was gonna be the best support for me. If you wanna have your mom or family, totally do whatever works for you. But for me, I knew that would be best to get me through labor. So Dave was incredible. He was like my emotional support. He was there the entire process. He was giving me water, and at one point gave me a big spoonful of honey to give me like a boost of energy, almost like an energy shot. He was encouraging me like as I was pushing, saying like, he's coming, I can see him, you're doing great, he's gonna be here. And then my midwives were incredible. They were coaching me on how to push, because you kind of like forget in the moment, or you just don't remember. Through contractions, they were reminding me what to do with my breathing. So, and then they were just there, they have like decades of experience, and they've helped deliver like so many babies. So I just felt so confident in their care. So I think having a good team is really important. Another question, what did labor actually feel like? A lot of people have asked this. I think the word for me that describes it best is like pressure. I guess at every contraction, as you're getting closer, it's putting a lot of pressure down there because it's slowly pushing the baby down, and it's like very painful, but it just feels like so much pressure down there. And the thing that my midwives kept reminding me of during was like, that pressure is good. The pressure means that he's coming down, that he's going to be here soon. Don't fight against the pressure. So the pressure just increased until, you know, you push him out, because it's like so much pressure that you can't help but push. So for me, that's like the number one word that I would use to describe labor, is just a lot of pressure. Someone asks, did I cry when I first saw Davy? Those moments are so vague for me, because I just went, you know, I had lived a whole day. I was exhausted, worked, you know, Valentine's Day, and then I just spent so many hours doing the hardest thing that I'd ever done in my life. And so when he came, honestly, those few hours after are like such a blur for me, because there was just so much going on and I was just exhausted. So I don't even remember if I cried. I just remember feeling so overwhelmed and excited, and just like, I remember Dave cried, and I remember seeing him cry, like in holding our son, and, you know, both of us just on the bed together looking at our son and looking at Davy. But I don't remember if I cried. I just remember feeling overwhelmed. Someone asks, how long was labor? So it started at 11, no, it started at, I keep getting this wrong, started at 8:30 p.m. and ended at 3:30 a.m. So that was the entire process, like first contraction until he came. And I realized that that's pretty, like I'm pretty lucky, because I know that they prepare you for first time moms, it being a lot longer. So I feel really grateful. How has postpartum been going? I had heard a lot about postpartum, and I know that, you know, they tell you so much, like on average, the first 2 weeks can be really hard and you can feel just all over the place emotionally. And I would say for sure, I often just felt like a crazy person, because my emotions and hormones were everywhere. I actually also had Davy really struggled to latch, like he wasn't latching in the beginning. We had to have a lactation consultant and our midwives and my mom, who's had 8 kids, you know, like we just had to have so many people over trying to help with that. And that was just emotionally overwhelming to me, because I really, you know, wanted to nurse him, and I really was wanting that for him and really wanted to do that. And I hadn't really prepared for the fact that he might just literally not latch on. And so those first like 10 days were emotionally just overwhelming, and I just was sticking with it and pumping like crazy, and I just, you know, wasn't giving up, but it was just really emotionally so hard. I just don't think I could have been prepared for how as a new mom and my son, and wanting that for him, like how I would feel. And so that was one of the, after giving birth, that was for sure one of the hardest parts, feeling like I'm giving this absolutely everything I have, but I can't control it, and I can't force him to nurse, and I'm trying everything, you know, all the tricks from lactation consultant, all of them from midwives, my mom, everything. Even saw, you know, we have a PA friend, talked to her, like every person you could think of, and just praying like crazy. And then finally around like day 10, he slowly started to get it. And now he is exclusively breastfeeding, which is like a miracle, and I am so grateful. So that was a huge part of my postpartum journey in the beginning, which just added like a whole dimension for me. It's definitely been hard, just emotionally, just because, you know, you don't get sleep, because your baby, it's a newborn, they're up all the time, they have to eat all the time. So I don't get a lot of sleep. There's so many emotions being a new mom. It's a completely new experience. Your schedule's now like not your own at all. You're home all the time, and it's just so different. So I think that having like obviously an incredibly amazing husband, and then amazing family, amazing care providers, friends to be there to support, has been huge. And then obviously like prayer and God's word and all of that has been so huge. Just having like a community, I think, and just people to reach out to has been huge. And I do feel like it gets better and better with each day. And so Dave kept reminding me, like, don't project this day into the future. Every day in the future isn't going to be like this. Let's choose joy today. What are we excited about today? And that was really helpful, because I didn't want to miss out on those first moments and first days of Davy's life. But you just feel so emotionally like wrecked that it can be hard to enjoy almost. And so, yeah, that's just the honest truth. Okay, a few more. I'm going to try to get through these really fast. Who cleaned up after birth? obviously it was a home birth. My team of midwives were absolutely incredible. No matter where I wanted to go in the house during labor, they would follow me everywhere, set up. They kept everything so clean. After I gave birth, I don't even remember. After a little while, they were like, okay, go take a shower. I went and took a shower. While I was taking a shower, they washed everything, cleaned everything up. They literally washed all our sheets, put them on the bed. Everything was like 100% cleaned up, disinfected, everything like that. Dave and I didn't have to do anything. It was amazing. How did I find my midwives? So my main midwife, you have like your main one. My mom actually used her for several of her births, and I had several friends, or a few friends who have used her as well. And she's like the midwife of midwives. She's been doing it for like 30 years or something like that. And she just has so much experience, and she's just very highly respected, and she just is like so good at what she does. And I knew that she would be incredible, like, and would also be incredibly wise in making the call if we ever needed to go to the hospital for any reason. She's very wise and very cautious, and very much like health of the mom and baby is super important, and we're gonna make sure that that's prioritized above like our dream birth plan. So I really liked that. Let's see. How has Dave been handling being a dad? He's such a rock star. He's so good with Davey. You can't really know how someone will be as a parent until they get there, but I mean, he has been surpassing every expectation I ever had. He's just so good with Davey. Like I was telling him, like, you know, Davey's obviously really happy when I'm nursing him, but if Dave and I like just had to try to make him happy and I couldn't nurse Davey, he's so good with Davey. Like he can make him happy and get him to sleep and all the things. He's just incredible. Okay, last question. Is having a newborn harder than expected? For me, probably yes. I think that it's just the whole experience and the whole like adjustment I think has been just really like a lot, you know. My whole life looks completely different now, and that's wonderful and amazing, but you really are like exchanging like the life you had. You can't just run to the grocery store. You can't just, you and your husband just can't go out on an easy date night. Like it's completely different. You can't just sleep through the night. It's so different. And so I think that I'm slowly adjusting. I absolutely love it, and I feel so grateful, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. But I think for me, it's been a little bit harder than I could have planned for. I'm not really sure. But anyways, those are all the questions that I have, and this video is already so long. I did just want to share some of that with you because I know I haven't been on here in a really long time, and I haven't shared really many details at all. So you can comment below if you have more questions, or if you want me to share different aspects of the story, or if you want me to show you different things around my house of what we have, what products we're using, what we like, just different things that I've personally been using, anything like that. And I'll try to link some stuff below. I don't know what I'll link. I've been trying to create an Amazon storefront page that has like all of the products I've been using, so that I don't have to keep like linking them individually. I'll try to link that below so you can see everything that I've personally used. I'll try to get that for y'all. But besides that, here we are. Today we are actually 5 weeks. It's his 5-week birthday, 5-week whatever. He was born 5 weeks ago. We're doing great. Every day is wonderful. He had a really good night, like sleep. He slept in like 3-hour chunks last night, so that's really good. And we're just doing really well. I'm super grateful and excited, and just so appreciate all of you and your support and your love and your encouragement during this process. We would so appreciate your prayers, and I would appreciate your prayers as a new mom, just for wisdom and guidance, and for you know, wise people around us to encourage us and give us direction as the days go on. That's all, because this video is almost 30 minutes. I will see y'all later.